But I just wanna fall.
That's all you say. About 5 minutes.
Waiting and to play with. I raise my children up to say the same shit. Dear Lord, I hope you hear my prayers. Because we really, really need you down here. From all the pain that we going through, we know that you're real, so can you fall through? Father, have mercy when we call on. But I just wanna fall on. To show the devils you ain't and to play with. I raise my children up to say the same shit.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Look, I keep it loyal to the team. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother way. Go ahead. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. Go ahead. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. Go ahead. This shit is too easy. I'm on gold, but they don't believe it. You know I'm winning with the team. Screaming Vinny, 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 V's. Hear them devils screaming out bloody murder. I'm about to close the curtain. Mama grind, bitch, I'm working. Sorry, all them lies, it ain't working. Them niggas weak, they be churching. I'm a West nigga, that's for certain. When he cross the line, I'ma back up and I'ma hit his ass with his virus. And I come through 300 strong, 144 Leonidas. All my niggas we eat. Men this bitch with the itis. Say all y'all do the sweet. Tell y'all to do the sweet. The nigga made the wrong move, he make his ass obsolete. He ain't one of us, hit the lead. He ain't one of us, he a preach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas go retreat. Go ahead. I keep it loyal to the T. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother wave. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat.
You see this look that's on my face, bitch, I'm for real with it. I hit the streets, put on my cleats, was in the field with it. You soft as cotton, just an actor, Uncle Phil with it. And then my targets on the move, but I can still hit it. Hey, I speak true cause it's necessary. Gullah Jack revolutionary. Cold on them like January. Commander General is a visionary. Soul food, no sweets. Your preacher man, he's sweet. Matter of fact, he weak. It's wartime for peace. Think you hard, nigga, you ain't. Fuck with us, nigga, you can't. You smart cars, we pace. We form up in ranks. We body bag this rap shit. All black, no bright shit. Real life, no cap, bitch. Fall on them, that's cap shit.
I keep it loyal to the team. UBK play for keeps. Ain't shit sweet. Got soldiers on deck, and my youngin' did a sweep. This a whole nother wave. Tell him get the fuck off the beach. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Nigga, come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. I'm in the field with the cleats. He ain't one of us, he a breach. Come through all black gully jack, man. All them niggas gon' retreat. Go ahead.
I ain't have to die to meet the devil. Angels fell and landed in the ghetto. The earth was given to the hands of devils. Then we seen the rise of the devil. We fell for the lies of the devil. When we got high was the devil. I looked into the eyes of the devil. I ain't have to die to meet the devil.
I remember how.
Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Okay, no sweat. That's why. Salakia, bear with me. All right, we need to go. All right, Most High in Christ, man. Let's clap it up. Most High in Christ. Shalom. How about you, How Shah Barakatah to all the brothers? How Shamar Allah about you, How Shah to all the sisters. It's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. You understand? It's the Friday Lashawan Qadash class, the Hebrew class. Priest and Officer 500,001, holding it down as usual. I'm saying with my brother Officer 50 Yanazar. Okay. And so today we're gonna I'm saying kind of pick up from where we left off the week before last. Salaki, unfortunately, last week, well, not unfortunately, but last week I couldn't be here. I'm saying due to being in New York for the I'm saying East Coast cookout. I'm saying Northeast cookout. Give Commander Junior Honor a hand. You know what I'm saying, for putting together another excellent display of brotherhood and sisterhood. You know what I'm saying? It was just, again, just a nice little visual, you know what I'm saying, teaser of what the kingdom will look like. And you can only get that in the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. All right. So now, with that being said, of course, this is the no, it's kind of dusty. Maybe this one's better. This little kind of ISUPK. Hebrew class, right? Also known as what? The Lashawan Qadash. Which means what? Please. Right. It means the holy tongue, right? You taught. Which means holy tongue. Or you could also say language. All right? Most High in Christ. Now, for today, like I said, we're going to be continuing where we left off the week before last. Of course, we have to start with our intro, get some precepts dealing with the Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? So we'll get prologue. Yeah, we'll get the prologue. You will also get, bear with me just a second. Slovakia. Yeah. Let's also get the one where they spoke half in Hebrew. Nehemiah 13 and 24. Young man, you can get that one if you don't mind. Okay. And we'll end it with our favorite Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Then a short alphabet review. Okay. And then I want to talk about a concept, really. This section will be short. We're not going to spend quite too much time on it, but I want to talk about understanding that. How do I word it? I'll say it like this. Hebrew grammar is Hebrew grammar. All right. We'll talk about Hebrew grammar as being a singular thing and how we have to be very, very, very careful to not try to put it into a mold of like familiarity of what we might be used to in speaking the languages we speak. We have to learn to look at Hebrew as its own thing entirely. Yeah, please.
If I may, by not like translating everything like directly.
Not so much. It's more of a conceptual grammatical thing, which we'll talk about in more depth. You know what I mean? But it's more so of not trying to, again, now sometimes you'll hear me talk when I teach this class, and you'll hear me use certain words, right? You'll hear me say verb, noun, certain things like that. Even that you have to be careful with. You understand? Because while there's a small amount of overlap, a lot of those concepts they're not even in Hebrew. You have to be careful with, you know what I mean? I just want to almost, kind of just gloss over it to make sure that we're all on the same page and understanding what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a completely different animal in terms of understanding how this works. You cannot apply what you already know to this. Just like you can't apply what you already know to what? What else can't you apply what you already know to? Go ahead.
The truth.
Right, exactly. Perfect answer. You can't apply what you already know to the truth. It ain't the same goddamn thing. What you already know is trash. The truth is the truth. Okay? Now, after that, then we're going to spend some time talking about actual Hebrew grammar. We're going to get some examples in the scriptures. Now, we already talked about what these prefixes are. We're going to get some examples in the scriptures. Last but not least, if we have the time, we'll talk a little bit about colors in Hebrew. All right. Most High in Christ. Hey, Shalom. We got to hear my brother, Officer Cordell. What's going on, Shalom. Yahweh Shemir Shabbat. Quadazaban Shemayun. Shalom. Yahweh Shemir Shabbat. What's going on, bro? All right. So now, give me that prologue, Yanazor, if you could. No, I got this one. Come on, yeah. We actually don't even really need this many chairs out. If you want to you can just go ahead and take that last row and just put those away. Yeah.
Okay. This is a portion.
No sweat.
This is a portion of the prologue of the book of Ecclesiasticus, and it reads, "Wherefore let me entreat you to read with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. To pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them." Testing, 1, 2, 3. You want me to charge the batteries? Oh, okay, most likely. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language.
Testing. There we go. Most High in Christ. Salakia. All right. All good. Salakia had to switch microphones. But you see what the brother just read, right? So, it was originally spoken in Hebrew, but it was translated into another tongue, right? And by definition of that translation, it did what? Read it again.
Wherein, pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words,
right,
which we have labored to interpret.
Right. Go ahead.
For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them.
Right. They don't have the same force if it's been translated. Why is that important? What does it matter? Yeah, Yanazar.
If I may, sir, it speaks to the exclusivity of the language and also the what's the word I'm looking for? You know, the our ownership of the language, how unique it is, how separate it is.
Right.
You know,
that's kind of what I want. How separate it is, because this, of course, is what? It's the holy language. What does the word holy mean? Go ahead, please. Holy means separate or set apart, right? So that's extremely important, because now we're reading in the Bible itself where it's telling us that this language is its own thing. It's not like every other language. And that when you translate it into another language, it does what? It loses something. You understand? Some people will, again, tell you that it doesn't matter. I mean, how many of us even heard of some of these words when we were in church, when we were in the Christian church, or when we were in the world? Never heard these words ever spoken, ever. You know what I'm saying? Even some, you know, the so-called Jewish man, right? Amalek, the fake Jewish, whatever he speaks. What is it? Yiddish. That fake garbage, right? That is not real Hebrew. That is not real Hebrew. That is some kind of Germanic concoction, right? It's made up. And it's almost a known fact. It is a known fact. It's not even like debatable. You know what I'm saying? The so-called Jewish man does not pretend to think that what he's speaking is ancient Hebrew. He knows it's not. You can practically Google that. You know what I'm saying? And certainly you can look it up in like Hebrew lexicons. You have something, Jan, as well?
No, it's just, like I hear them like when they speak about their language, the language that they speak, the Yiddish, they call it just that.
Right.
They don't call it Hebrew.
Right.
You understand? Now what they'll say is that they have like Hebrew university or Hebrew classes. Right. You understand? That's just a ploy. You understand? But they're not. I heard Max Kellerman say one time, like he wrote his, he's on what is it? First Take with Stephen A. Smith. Oh yeah. But he said that I think he said his grandfather, somebody wrote him a letter in Yiddish. It was in Yiddish. Right. He didn't say it was in Hebrew. Right. He said it was in Yiddish. Mm-hmm. And I laughed when he said that because I knew exactly what he meant. Right. And also, they in all of their writings and you could just look at the language itself and you'll see that what they speak, the pronunciation is so far from the original Hebrew that it's not even funny. Right.
Right. And that's you dropping a bomb on, to be honest. Or like what you are reading in that Apocrypha is so heavy, you understand, to people when it comes to understanding why what we do in the Isupk and the Commander Junior Yohana is so important. You understand? Translating this Hebrew is a task, and it has to be done. Why? Because if we don't, we can't fully understand the Bible. Period. You understand? Any more on that? Come on. Young man, could you get me Nehemiah 13 and 24?
It's the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13, verse 24. And their children spake half in the language of Ashdod.
Start at verse 23.
Come on. It's the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13, verse 23. In those days also I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod.
He saw what?
Jews that married wives of Ashdod.
So what is he seeing?
So like I said, for me, he's seeing that interracial marriage.
Right. He's seeing interracial marriage amongst Israelites. He's seeing Jews or Israelites being married to other nations. In this particular instant, he's using Ashdod as just an example. He's not saying that's the only people they were marrying. It would be like me saying brothers out here marrying white women. Right. That ain't the only people they marry. And it's just an example. You know what I'm saying? That might be the most prominent one you see more often. Yeah. So he's just, like you said, just interracial marriage. Go ahead.
Of Ammon and of Moab.
Oh, so he kept going. Of Ammon and of Moab. Go ahead.
Right. Verse 24. And their children spake half in the speech of Ashdod.
So not only did he see that these brothers were taking wives of Ashdod and Ammon and Moab, these heathens, but what happened after that as a result of that?
So like if I may, their children started, speaking the language of these other nations.
Right. Read on. Let's see how we felt about that. Let's see how Nehemiah felt about it.
And could not speak in the Jews' language.
They couldn't do what?
Could not speak in the Jews' language.
They couldn't say Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah Barakatah. They couldn't say Yahweh Shema Athah Hashem Yahweh Shah. They could not say Lashawan Qadash. They didn't know what this was. They didn't know this. Just like who?
So us today, sir.
Today. And this bothered Nehemiah. Read on.
But according to the language of each people.
But who?
But according to the language of each people.
Right. So they were speaking according to what? The language of their mothers. These heathens that they had married. You understand? You know what I mean? Look at your Tiger Woods of the world. You know what I'm saying? What's the other sister? Naomi Osaka. I'm pretty sure she speaks fluent Japanese. I think she does. Go ahead.
So like I said, was she raised by her mother or her father was in the picture? Or?
Her father was in the picture, but she was raised primarily by her mother.
Oh yeah, she definitely She definitely speaks.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, she speaks fluent Japanese. Okay, even though she's an Israelite, because her father is Haitian. Okay, she's a Levite, right? Read on.
Verse 25. And I contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them.
And he did what?
It's like, and he contended with them and cursed them and smote certain of them.
Man, he hit them with some real aggression. He went at them cats. He smoked certain of them. It got physical.
Damn.
Read.
And plucked off their hair.
He wasn't very happy about this.
Right.
Read.
And made them swear by the Most High, saying, "You shall not give your daughters unto their sons."
Right. That's the precept for it. A brother had asked for a precept. I get a precept to Nehemiah 13 and 24. The brother just Nehemiah actually kind of says it. So let me go to it, Salak here. 1 second. One second. You can read that next as well. That precept will be Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3 through 4. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3 through 4. We'll read it up because it goes with this. It's the precept for this. So finish that and then we'll get that precept.
Ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves.
All right.
Next. Oh.
Yeah. Now jump to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3. Right. He said, "You shall not give your daughters to their sons, neither shall you take their daughters to your sons." Right. Just a second. Right. Because it's quite rare these days. But then again, who's ever heard this? Who's ever heard a black woman say how all y'all black men do is deal, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all deal with these white women, y'all deal with these other races or whatever. Say that all the time. Yeah. Which is true. Let's call it what it is. Niggas have an obsession with other races, which is why it's in the Bible. Because we've always been like that. You know what I'm saying? Especially Judites. Right. Judites have we have a thing in us that attracts us to heathens and whores. Like we like both of them a lot. You know what I mean? If you're a Judite, don't feel guilty. It's not you personally. Right? We've all been there. It's just how it goes. Heathens and whores. That's in the Bible. You understand? And so now these sisters saying this, they right. And what have we done as a result of it? We've driven the sisters to go what? To go try to get, give me some devil, Brad Pitt.
Good night.
You know what I'm saying? Or DiCaprio, one of them cats. Go ahead.
Like, sir, I know they chasing after what's his name? The Amazon guy, the owner.
Jeff Bezos?
Yeah, they trying to trap him, sir. You know, get a little bit of that wealth.
I'm trying to get that cash. That's
kind of a concert.
You know what I mean? But Serena Williams, she's with the devil. And both of them sisters is with the devil.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Get up.
So one more thing with the Serena with the Williams sisters is because a lot of people say it's because their third sister died in Compton. And they've kind of had like a wishy-washy, like, you know, a hatred of black men after that. She was killing a drive-by.
I'm sure that, I can see that having some kind of psychological effect. But to be honest with you, that's BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they from Compton anyway. Like, drive-bys happen in Compton. Go ahead, huh? Yeah, they both right. They both been with brothers.
I personally, if I may, I heard Serena say the reason why she like white men is because they treat her better than the brothers. That's what she said out of her own mouth. You know,
don't brothers say the same thing though? Don't brothers say that, you know, white women are easier to deal with, docile? Like no white woman has ever put anybody on child support, I guess. Like that's never happened in life. Ain't that who's it happening to right now? That's got to pay like crazy amounts of money. Dr. Dre. Ain't he with Edomite? Good. She's Hispanic. Okay, no sweat. If I can think of one, I'm telling you right now, there's what is somebody. Well, I mean, Tiger Woods, she ain't hit him with child support. She just hit him with all kinds of golf clubs and ruined his life. He pays child support too, and it has not won. I think he won one major since that, by like luck. Child support and alimony. After getting beat upside his head with his own golf clubs. But I guess white women don't do that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. We're not supposed to deal. Same thing? Got no sweat. It's in the Bible. These ones been charging a little bit. So, this is proof that we're not supposed to deal with these other nations. Are they charging? You just put those in. They've been charging for a little bit. You're gonna put these in here, right? They don't really matter. You can put them in the ones you got. Okay. This is proof, right, of what we're talking about. When we're gonna read the next scripture, right, and that's gonna make it clarify it a little bit more. So this is the precept that you asked for. All right, read that, brother.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Shall not do what?
Shall make marriages with them.
No, it's okay to be with heathens.
Shall make marriages with them.
No, you can go ahead and be with you can't help who you love.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
You shall not make marriages with them. Read on.
Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto its son.
You cannot give your daughter unto a son, Serena, Venus. And we know that their father didn't give him, right? Unfortunately, he ain't in the truth, so he didn't really know, he doesn't know the proper way to prevent these things. But it's certainly, from what I understand, he never intended for them to be with no devils.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a father, you cannot give your daughter, to a heathen. Go ahead.
Come. Nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
Nor what?
Nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
You also cannot encourage or push your sons to be with heathen women. They're
That's
both
right.
wrong. Sisters are right. It's wrong for a brother to be with a heathen, but it's also wrong for sisters to be with heathens too.
Yeah.
You understand? Read on.
Come. Verse 4. For they will turn away thy son from following
They'll
me.
do what?
They will turn away thy son from following me.
They're going to turn away your son from following the Most High. What does that mean? Get up.
It's like I said, they'll start following other gods or just stop following God altogether.
They're going to follow other heathens. They can follow heathens' culture.
Kind of.
Think of our everything in this Bible is our culture, as we always say. From our quote unquote religion, our our power, our belief in our power, our faith, our language, our history, all of it is our culture. So when we deal with them, what do? We adopt their culture. You know what I'm saying? Now we don't want to have boots and braids and gold teeth. Now we want to wear Birkenstocks and and shop at Kmart. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's still a thing, but you know what I mean? Old Navy. You know what I'm saying? We want to shop at Old Navy. We want to wear we want to wear Prada. The only reason why we want to wear Prada is because devils like Prada.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They gave Prada high value and Gucci and all these different name brands named after some homosexual. They gave it that stature.
Right.
And then we pushed it, because we want to be like them. Jim Jones just said it the other day, that's my guy. He was on a podcast and he was damn near talking about FUBU and what else? It was FUBU, Fat Farm, all them different name brands. Black owned stuff in the 90s. He was basically like talking down on them, like, yeah, we didn't wear that in my neighborhood. He was like, yeah, that stuff was like knockoff to us, which I get it. Who's that? Jim Jones. He's speaking to a certain type of dude. He's speaking to some wannabe rich dude, some drug dealer type. You know what I mean? Why would he want to wear a Fat Farm jacket or a FUBU jacket when he can just go spend $1,000 and wear, some actual Fifth Avenue, Madison Ave type name brand stuff. Right. But that's what happens. We adopt their culture. Read on. Thy daughter,
slack it. that they may serve other gods.
Right.
So will the anger of the Most High be kindled against you?
Right. You can drop that.
Okay.
Okay. Last but not least, Zephaniah 2:1. Let's read it fast. In the meantime, just going to quick breakdown of this word so we can just have this in our memory banks before we get into our alphabet review. Okay. Well, let me know when you got it out. Right. So Lashawan Qadash, the word Lashawan, right, not loosely, but translates in English to tongue, then loosely translates to language because it's like a metaphor. All right. And then, of course, the word Qadash translates to holy, which means separate or set apart. The set apart tongue or language, the different language, right? We didn't get the scripture today, but this is the language that Paul referred to as what? The tongue of angels. Okay? The language that angels speak. All right? Go ahead,
Come. This book is Zephaniah, chapter 2, verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
Right?
Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
Right. Now, if we're a nation, then that means we have to gather together based on what we just read in the last scripture. We lost our culture because we wanted to latch on to heathens.
Right.
Adam and Eve lost something. They lost their relationship with the Most High because they wanted to what?
Go with do what the other nations do.
They just were curious and wanted to do what other nations did. When I say curious, you're right. I'm just saying their curiosity made them say, well, we want to see what they're doing. The whole thing is a metaphor. It's not literal. There was no apple.
Right.
There was no fruit of any kind. Right. Just like the fruit of your labor is not something you bite into. Pause.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's not what that is. The fruit of your labor is what? The results of your work. All right. In the same fashion, the fruit, the forbidden fruit, it just meant like, it's something they consumed. Right? The metaphor is that they consumed it, but it doesn't mean it's an actual fruit. Just like if I say what? Food for thought. Do you eat food for thought? Is barbecue chicken food for thought? No. Food for thought is teaching a class, teaching you something, you learn something. That's food for thought. So the fruit, forbidden fruit, is just something they were not supposed to consume, something they were not supposed to take upon themselves that they did. Okay? Just why when it says they were naked, they were not naked.
Right.
They were not actually walking around.
They don't hang out.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like rods out and breasts. That's not what it means. Right? It just means that they had, or they, better yet, when Adam said, I hid from you because I was naked. They had, and the Lord asked them, who told you were naked? They felt naked, right? They felt naked because they wanted to take on the culture of heathens. And they clothed themselves with the heathens' culture. There's another scripture that says those wearing strange apparel. All right? So this is what it's talking about. So here we have, any more on that? Read it.
Book of Zephaniah, chapter 2, verse 2.
No, you good.
Go.
Right. So we got to gather ourselves together. So what we have here, of course, is Lashawan Qadash, right? Written in the Assyrian, right? Now, of course, we're going to review this in just a second with the alphabet. But as we can see in the Assyrian, we don't use any connectors. Remember that, okay? We kind of just have to know it. And remember, we're going from which side to which side, which direction?
So like I said, from right to left.
From right to left, right? Which should be the first lesson in understanding the difference between this language and anything you think about English. They just don't function the same.
Right.
They don't. All right. So now, Lashawan and corresponding letters is going to be the same. So again, let me actually use a different color. All right. These things are not going to change. The amount of letters, if it's written, the amount of letters you see in a word written in Assyrian is going to be the exact same when written in the ancient. Okay? correspondence. So we got a la. Then in the ancient, we're going to have a la. We got a sha. In the ancient, we're going to have a sha. We got a wa. In the ancient, we're going to have a wa. And it ends with a na. Of course, again, I don't want to spend too much time on the alphabet review, so I'm going to kind of gloss over these things. But remember, at the end of a word, the na has that different form, right? That can throw you off. You got to pay close attention to that. Salaki. Right? And we have a thing in the ancient connectors that alert us to the amount of syllables. So that way we know basically how to formulate the word. Lashawan, right? How many syllables is Lashawan?
It's like
Three syllables, but there's how many letters in the word?
It's like about four. It's like four there.
There are 4 letters. So how do we get 3 syllables from 4 letters?
It's like, so you want to connect them?
No, you just said it. I just want the answer. You're
it's
right.
like,
That's
yeah.
it. You have something has to connect. In other words, 2 letters have to share a vowel sound,
Kind of,
right? And how we do that is this. So again, remember in Hebrew, what vowel sound is in Hebrew?
So like instead of the ah sound.
The ah sound, the short a sound. That's it. That's the only vowel that exists. And again, it does not exist as a vowel.
Come on.
Again, going back to what we're going to talk about pretty soon, English grammar is not Hebrew grammar.
Come on.
You got to be careful. Are there vowels in Hebrew?
La.
No. See, perfect.
Come.
Might be confusing to someone who's not familiar. There are no vowels in Hebrew. Why are there no vowels in Hebrew? I mean, we just said there's a short a sound. That's a vowel, right?
Come.
You sure?
No, it's like no.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a vowel, sir. But it's the sound of just about all the words except for what I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's just the sound each letter has.
Right. A vowel, as we know it in English, the word vowel is not just a sound. It's a functioning aspect of a language as such that it has a symbol, right? A vowel is what, if you look at the definition, we talked about it before, right? Who can remember that phrase we used? Who can remember the definition of vowel that we found? Anybody? No sweat. Just to refresh our memory of why we can say there's no vowel in Hebrew. Because someone's going to come to you and say there's vowels in Hebrew. Go ahead, y'all. Absolutely. Give them a hand. A vowel, as we know it in English, understand, is what they call the nucleus or the center of a syllable that connects, not necessarily, but mostly connects 2 consonants. It can also be the center of the syllable without connecting consonants. Okay? It doesn't have to. Certain words might end in a vowel. Right? It's still the nucleus of the syllable, but it doesn't connect 2 consonants. Right? And say the word ran. This symbol, this A, is the nucleus of this 1 syllable word. Okay? In Hebrew, this does not exist. There is no symbol that represents the nucleus of a syllable. It doesn't exist at all. You understand? You cannot write the English alphabet without writing what? A, E, I, O, U. Sometimes Y. That's a vowel. It's a symbol that functions to make syllables. Hebrew does not have that. Each one of these symbols is what? A letter, but to be more on point, more direct, each of these symbols is what? Each of all of these symbols is what? In conjunction with what we just talked about. In contrast to what we just talked about, what is each syllable? Each symbol, excuse me.
It's like it's its own sound.
You mean word?
Oh.
That's not necessarily true.
Oh.
You're right, but it's not always. Go ahead. You're more right to say its own sound. That's true. None of these is a vowel. So if none of these is a vowel, what are they? Anybody online? If no Hebrew symbol in the alphabet is a vowel, they all are what? Yes, I'm Yonazo? They're what? Exactly. Consonants. Consonant. Somebody look at the definition of a consonant. When you get it, just go ahead and read it. No sweat. You got a Yanazor? Yeah, no, it's passing on.
Consonant. Being in agreement or harmony, free from elements making for discord.
That's like an adjective. Go ahead.
Yeah, adjective. Okay. Marked by musical consonances having similar sounds relating to collegiate dictionary. One class of speech sounds, such as characterized by constriction or closure.
Did you press the button or is it just shutting off? No sweat.
A letter representing a consonant usually used in English or any letter except A, E, I, O, U.
No sweat. That's pretty much it, right? The long and short of it is that it is a alphabet or sorry, a letter that does not join other consonants to make a syllable, right? A consonant in English would be what? B, C, D, F, so on and so forth. H. Now, what might confuse somebody is you might say, well, the other definition of a vowel is about how it sounds, right? You know, a vowel has a certain sound. But notice we didn't say there are no vowel sounds in Hebrew. We said there are no vowels. There is not one vowel written in Hebrew. Why? Because even though, say, the I, right? Say the I, right, in Hebrew, has a vowel sound, which just means that it's a part of speech where there is no constriction of the airflow, right? That's how they describe it linguistically, right? That's the technical jargon about it, right? Every consonant is P. It's something that use your mouth, lips, teeth, or something to constrict the airflow. H, J, K, right? But in the other ones, A, E, I, O, U, Y, it doesn't do that so much. That's why it says sometimes Y, because with Y you kind of, but you don't fully, right? Those sounds exist, specifically the short A sound, the I sound, and that's it, right? But unlike in English where you have A, E, I, O, U, so in order to say read, I gotta put some vowels in there. In order to say joy, I gotta put a vowel in there. In order to say bin, I gotta put a vowel in there. Now, if I, as we talked about before, now read Joy Bin. Imagine if I wrote that like this. It doesn't make any damn sense. Okay? Because you need vowels in this language. In our language, you don't. Literally, it's consonants next to each other. You cannot put oh, I got you. Who knows what this word is? What word is that? You just see RP? Obviously, it's the word is rope. How did y'all not know that? Rope. Yeah. How about this one? Sure. This one is rap. Come on. How would you know? We could do this all day. Rip, rap, rope, ripe, rape. You don't know because each of these is an English word and thus needs what? A vowel. However, y'all know that we're gonna do the alphabet in a second, but since everybody in here should know, we'll and I'll do this in ancient. What is this word? Con. The equivalent in English of each of these consonantal sounds or symbols would be what? K. In. What is this word? Right. Kind or kin. You don't fucking know. Excuse me, Salaki for my language. You don't freaking know because English, you need the vowel. We don't have that here. Yeah, everyone was able to know that this is con. Everyone was able to know that because we recognize that in our language, the consonantal sound is unambiguous. It's there whether you like it or not. It's just there. Okay, there's no written symbol for this. There is no written symbol for it. It's there because it's like you said earlier, it has its own sound. This short A sound, this ah is already there. It's part of what? This. Right. The only reason why we're not saying ka na is because we have a connector to let us know to stop and let it share, right, and form the nucleus that way. But there's no symbol for it. That's why there are no vowels. Make sense, everybody? Got you. Now with these consonants, as we just demonstrated here, we simply use connectors to know whether or not a letter is going to maintain its own vowel sound or if it's going to share it, right? So if we have 3 syllables, we need what? 3 connectors. We need the ones that tell us it's going to keep its sound. We know that. So it's la, sha, one. So again, if we were just to write it, to mentally make a note of it, there's a here, 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 and no here. Again, we know that every letter carries its own, except for the and the I. So it would be la, sha, wa, na. But it's not, because that's 4 syllables. We need it to be la, sha, one. So if we count each one, then we need 3, right? And this is the only one that doesn't have a following vowel sound. So that means it's sharing it with the one that comes before it. The la is not, the sha is not, it's keeping this, the la is keeping its ah, the sha is keeping its ah, but the na is sharing it with the wa that comes before it. Boom. Make sense? Most High in Christ. Same thing with Qadash. How many syllables is that? 2. It's not Qadasha, it's Qadash. So we know what? That this Sha is sharing its vowel sound with the previous letter, the Da. So the Qua is on its own. It needs to share. All right? Lashawan Qadash. Awesome. Now, Yanazar, if you could, Baba Kushab, we're going to just breeze through this fast, but you my guy. So if you could, please just give me the ancient right here. All right. You can use that blue if it works. All right. While you're doing that, show some more examples of this. Perfect. The water. Okay. So now, with that understanding of using these connectors, which again, it's a good thing we did that one last because that's what we're going to talk about real quick with the ancient. We need that in order to form words in the ancient. We will not use it when we form words in what? In Assyrian. Assyrian does not carry that function. Doesn't exist. We simply have to know the words. Okay? And there's different ways of knowing it. I'm saying the Hebrew scholars in the school are very familiar. There's books you can buy, of course, that will help as well. You know what I mean? And we're gonna one of the books. I'm working on getting one of the books in here as soon as possible, so we can start implementing that into our studies. All right. We have the blue letter Bible, and we have the concordance to get word meaning, right? But there are books that help you understand like the kind of history of how these words would be pronounced and so on and so forth. And that's what we're going to start to get into. All right, the water, brother. So now, we wrote Lashawan Qadash here, right? Everybody familiar with these letters? You all good? So we can just reel them off, right? We know them. Y'all ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Flop. No sweat. Let's get it from the top. Ready? Go. Most High in Christ, man. Got some real, you know what I'm saying, Hebrews up in here, man. I'm telling you. I'm glad to see it, right? So, let's get our transliterations as well, right? Because we're going to use them when we do what? When we have to write again, Lashawan Qadash. This is a direct function of this. We write it a certain way so we can visualize it when we see it written in English. If you ever have to read a prayer, a lot of times the prayers will be written in this, what is called a transliteration, right? And what is a transliteration again? Somebody tell me. I'm an idiot. I don't know what's going on. I don't even know how I got up here. What is a transliteration? Please, Janazar.
It's when you take the pronunciation of one language and using the alphabet or the symbols of another.
That is the most perfect definition. That's it. It's taking the sound, the phonetic sound from one language, because all languages is what? It's just sounds, right? You're using your mouth to formulate sounds, right? They call a vocative, I believe, is one of the words they use. A vocalization. But the problem is, one language has certain symbols, right? But if I'm going to learn this other language, or how another language says something. So if you tell me, all right, look, so I want you to, to say some word in, I don't know, in Swahili or something like that, or you know what I mean? I don't know how you write clicks down, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. That's my point, right? But let's just say some Chinese, right? Some crazy, you know what I mean, little Chinese type thing. I don't know, something like this, right? And they say, hey, read this. This is my name. And they say, show me, this is my name. I'm like, I don't have any familiarity with this to connect this to a sound, right? Remember, each symbol in a language, right, what they also sometimes call a glyph, it is just a representation of a sound. The connection between the two is mostly arbitrary, certainly in English. Our language actually is different. There actually is more of a reason why certain symbols make certain sounds. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why an ah sounds like an ah. I'm saying in terms of the actual pictograph, like that's written down. And we'll get into that another day when we talk about the history of the symbols. That'll be its whole own class. But the point is, if I can't read this language, this means nothing to me. So I need somebody to do what? Transliterate it. I need you to tell me what this sounds like. And then we can write it in with symbols that's familiar to me. For example, what does that say? Chan. Is this an English word? What does it mean in English? In Chinese or Mandarin, whatever the hell it is, it means something. But to us, it means absolutely nothing because it's not an English word. The only reason why you were able to pronounce this and recognize it is because I used English letters to describe the sound of a Chinese word. And we do this all the time. There's certain words that are in English that come from other languages. You know what I'm saying? For example, kindergarten. It's German. It's a German word. It is a straight up German word. Kindergarten. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's how that works. So we have to know these so we can transliterate it, make it easy for ourselves at certain times. All right. Now, of course, we have here the ha, ta, ya, ka, la. Oh, that's lucky. Ma. I don't mind spiders. I think spiders are cool. Don't you like eat other insects? He said spiders are crazy. For real. That makes me happier than to see a spider web and see other insects is in there just. Ra. Shah, Salaki for my handwriting. And Shah. All right. And each one of these will correspond directly when we transliterate it. So now let's see this in action real quick before we go into the next phase. Okay. So let's say Let's think of a word. Let's say, what is the word for earth? Yeah, Yazor. By earth, I mean planet. Like the whole planet. Or land. Arataza. Arataza. Right? Now we hear that. Let's write it. Right? Which might confuse you a little bit. You see a ta and a za. I'll let you know ahead of time. This is a taza. This is one letter. So how do we go about writing it? It's easy now. We know the transliteration. We simply just go backwards. Now remember, we have to flip it because that's how Hebrew works. So we're going to do what? We're going to find a ah, we're going to find a ra, and we're going to find a tazah. Simple. Ah, ra, tazah. And we know where the connectors are going to be. Three syllables, three letters, three syllables. All right? Simple. And what if we have to do this in reverse? What if we don't know this, but we have this? What if the word is something of a good one, Salakia. How do we write it out? Right. Now, how do you write it? Yeah, just write it in English. Right here. Right. Maybe they're connected. Right. So there you go. And everybody, if you're watching online, those symbols he's writing, they're not a part of it. You don't have to worry about these little symbols. We're just using those to denote, you know what I'm saying, where the syllables are. That's all we're using that for. You don't have to actually write that. Okay? This will be very important for us going forward to understand and know these transliterations. We're going to see it everywhere. We're going to read entire prayers that have this. And once you know this, you should be able to do what? Go back and forth. You should be able to read the prayer in the English transliteration and write it out in Hebrew. At some point, every single one of us should be able, if I was to give you, you know what I'm saying, a transliterated Tanakh, written like Lashawan Qadash or Ratazah Mahayaman, you should be able to what? Go in reverse and write it, you know what I'm saying, in ancient, and vice versa. If I was to give you ancient, if I gave you a prayer, if I gave you Psalms 83 written out in ancient, connectors and all, it should be nothing for each of us to be able to write Lashawan Qadash or Ratazah Mahayaman. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we want to get with that. It's very important. Now, Yanazar, last thing I need you to do, let me get the Assyrian. Yeah, but just leave the transliterations underneath. Go ahead and erase the ancient. That's the ancient. That's what it is. Get familiar. Everybody swap. Now, the Assyrian, of course, we have to be paying a little bit more attention to it because it's what we have to read in the Tanakh. That's what we have to read. Okay? Every Sabbath service, we got to go. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the luxury of reading a transliterated version in the Sabbath service. We are reading direct Hebrew letters, okay, in the Tanakh. In fact, let me show you. This is it. See that? This is what we're reading. Now, this is, of course, the great hindrance is that because there's no connectors, if you're not already familiar with the word, it's a little bit more difficult to know what's connected, what's not, which is why these classes are important so we can start to build up a mental library, knowing what words, so when we see them, we already kind of have an idea, more than likely, what it is, especially if we know the English ahead of time. Go ahead, Op. A lot of it, right? For when you first, especially when you first start, as with the water Op, as we go along. Just give me the when you get out, just get the last few. Yeah, count. Take your time though. But right, you're doing a lot of sounding out. But what will happen is over time, count. If you, yeah, please. Over time, what will happen is, again, you build up a mental library of the words as such that you'll kind of know what they are when you see them. You'll know the context. Hebrew, which is what we're really going to talk about in the next segment, is it's mostly about context. It's not like English, where it's this very set rule type. It's context is everything. Remember, this is the first language. In certain instances, it's almost more simplified, but it's almost complex in its simplicity because our brains have been tuned to speaking this bastard tongue called English. And all these bastard languages, Spanish and so on and so forth. So some of these concepts are foreign to us, right? But we'll get it as we go along. And like I said, when we build up that mental kind of library of words, we'll get the context. It's just like knowing how to, it's like a doctor, you know what I'm saying, or someone who works in the medical field. You know, there's a million things that could be wrong with your heart. Something could be wrong with your liver or different body parts. But based on the context, will help a doctor know how to diagnose you. You know what I'm saying? You may be having pain in your abdomen. It could be one of a lot of things. Well, is this person a heavy drinker? Does this person do a lot of physical activities? Does this person have any other previous medical problems? You know what I'm saying? And that will help them say, okay, that's more than likely this or that. Context. And that's what Hebrew is all about. All right. So when we start, so especially once we start to understand this and know these words better, and that's why it will be also beneficial if you're going to be reading for the Sabbath service. I encourage every brother, whether you're the man leading it or you got to be called up or you the second man, I would encourage you, first of all, to try to look over the scriptures ahead of time, the night before, if you can, if you know them. Look over the scriptures, not just in the Hebrew, but also in English. Why will that help you? Why will it help you to know the English? Go ahead, Yanazar.
Tell you with the words,
Meaning what?
the meaning and the pronunciation.
Right. Because if I've been, you know what I'm saying, studying Hebrew, and now I know that the Hebrew word for, you know, for servant, right, is ibad, right? If I know that, then when I read it in the English the night before and I see that, oh, in verse 45, it says, my servant or the servant. Now, when I read 45 in English, I know when I see a I, a ba, and a da, ibad, because I know that that's what that word means. So it will help you in that regard, all right? So now, Assyrian real quick. Let's run through this. Y'all ready? Let's go. Here we go. Throw y'all off. Y'all gotta be quicker than that. Y'all ready? You're gonna keep going from Ka, all right? Sorry. And of course, we don't have to repeat this, you know what I'm saying, but we know these represent at the end of a word in Assyrian what it will look like. Again, one thing you did for the most part, absolutely correct. Slakia. You want to make sure to this knob should look so much like a water coming in. You know what I'm saying? Oh, exactly. Yeah. You have the right idea. Oh, got the right idea, but just bring it. All right. Almost like question mark. Oh, okay. Exactly. Everything else is perfect. All right. Now, with that being said, let's talk about this concept, right, that we've kind of been alluding to this whole time. We've been I'm going to erase this, all right? Who is familiar with the term perfect and imperfect verb tenses? Perfect and imperfect verbs. Somebody gets the definition of perfect and imperfect verbs. Count if you need to. You can read it out. Get him the mic. Oh, is that one still?
Perfect and imperfect verbs. Perfect and imperfect verbs. The perfect tense uses an auxiliary verb and a past participle, while the imperfect tense uses only the imperfect conjugation of the verb. These are still imperfect because they use the imperfect modification of be or you was used plus either the infinitive or the run of
Jared.
Jared.
Anybody know what the hell that means? No sweat. I didn't expect anybody to. It sounds like a bunch of BS. All right. Let's see if we can't simplify just a little bit. Let's see. And this, of course, is going to play into what we know about prefixes, what we learned. Can anybody refresh my memory? So don't let me get off this imperfect verb thing. We're going to get back to it. But we broke down some prefixes that are attached to words at the beginning in Hebrew, at the beginning of a word. Anybody remember what they are? Mm-hmm. 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 I'm mixing these up. Let's focus on the ah for now. The ah means what? Right. You saying something? Yeah. Mm-hmm. If we go look up through the Blue Letter Bible, you can actually find thing that helps you out with Hebrew tenses. What? Let's go to a scripture real fast. Let's go to Psalms 51 and 13.
Come on.
In the Blue Letter Bible, if you could, Baruch Yeshua.
Oh, come.
Yeah, because we want to read the Hebrew. $13. Got it? All right. So we're gonna read it in the Hebrew first. This is the book of Psalm chapter 51 and verse 13. Ah lamada pashayim darakyaka waka ta'ayam alyaka yashawabua. Okay. Now that first word, if you read it in English, young man.
Come on. It's the book of Psalm, chapter 51, 13. Then will I teach.
Then will I teach, right? You don't have to really worry about the rest.
Come.
The point is that it says, then will I teach, or I will teach.
Yeah.
Right? I will teach them. Or then will I teach. I will teach. Now, how this is formed, the root word is ladum. Lamad. It's like a lamad. And the ah is attached to the beginning.
Come.
So lamad means to teach, or lamada, right, is the feminine form, so to teach. The ah is attached to the beginning to make it I will teach, as we know from this, right? This is an example of this being used, this prefix. But here's the thing. if we read up on it, on how this works, check this out. Salakia. This is talks about the imperfect tense in Hebrew. It says the imperfect tense is translated in Hebrew most often as a future tense, but in reality, what is actually being expressed is an incomplete condition, which is what the future tense indicates. However, there are other times when future time is not the focus, but rather continuous, unfinished action, which may be expressed in past, present, and future time. You head up?
Slack it. Where can we find that definition?
You can find that, well, actually, through Blue Letter. If you go to blueletterbible.org, you go to blueletterbible.org, right? And if you click on where it has all the different, all the Strong's numbers, you click under the number, there's like a little bubble with all these letters, right? It's like, yeah, I pressed the wrong thing. My bad. Right, it'll bring this up. Hebrew parsing, which is demonstrating to you the breakdown of the word, how it's where the verb is, the conjugation, and so on and so forth. If you scroll down, there's a thing that says additional resources, and there's a simplified Hebrew grammar PDF, and there's another one that says how Hebrew verbs work. You click on either of those, it'll bring it up, and you can just read through it. All of it is not perfect, but it'll help you understand the concept that we're talking right now. So it says, Slakia. Right. Imperfect. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll read something else that's kind of interesting. We'll go to Wikipedia. Just a second. And we're going to look up imperfect verb. It says, the imperfect is a verb form that combines past tense, reference to a time past, and imperfective aspect, referencing to a continuing or repeated event or state. It can have meanings similar to English was walking or used to walk. It contrasts with preterite forms which refer to a single completed event in the past. Traditionally, the imperfect of languages such as Latin and French is referred to as one of the tenses, although it actually encodes aspectual information in addition to tense, time reference. It may be more precisely called past imperfective. English has no general imperfective and expresses it in different ways. The term imperfect in English refers to forms much more commonly called past progressive or past continuous, was doing or were doing. These are combinations of past tense with specifically continuous or progressive aspect. Scroll down, we're going to go to Semitic languages. We're on Wikipedia. We're on the Wikipedia page for imperfect verbs. Okay? At the top, it'll just say imperfect. We're going to scroll down to where it says Semitic languages. You follow me? If anybody's confused, let me know. I know a lot of reading has been done, but it should come up. When you Google it, you should be able to type in imperfect verb Wikipedia, and you should be able to see it at the top. A lot of this jargon we're reading is going to have no bearing to us when we read the next part. It will all make sense. Got it? Yeah. Now, if you scroll down to where it says Semitic languages, it says Semitic languages, of which Hebrew is one of them, especially the what?
The ancient form.
Especially the what?
The ancient form.
Especially the what?
Ancient form.
Especially the ancient forms do not make use of the imperfect or perfect tense with verbs. What does that mean? Yeah, Doc.
Salakia, sir. They just ignore it. I mean,
It
it was
means that the shit doesn't exist
kind of.
in Hebrew. In ancient Hebrew specifically, there is no imperfect tense. There is no perfect tense. That is a specifically modern English and probably modern Hebrew thing. It's straight up doesn't exist in Hebrew. You can't find it. You understand? You cannot apply a grammatical construct that is English to Hebrew. So when we go back to the thing we're reading from Blue Letter and it refers to it, that's why it says in that section, it says the imperfect tense is translated in Hebrew most often as a future tense, but in reality, what is actually being expressed is an incomplete condition, which is what the future tense indicates. Basically telling you it's not really an imperfect tense, right? Let's read what imperfect tense means again. Let's get an understanding to show how different Hebrew is. Imperfect tense. Let's see. I don't want Spanish. That's still Spanish. We won't say tense, we'll say imperfect verb. No, don't repeat that. Perfect verbs or past continuous.
So like it's a action.
Right.
Okay.
Imperfect meanings in English are expressed in different ways depending on whether the event is continuous or habitual. For a continuous action, one that was in progress at a particular time, the past progressive, past continuous form is used as in, I was eating. They were running fast. However, certain verbs that express state rather than action do not mark the progressive aspect. In these cases, the simple past tense is used instead. He was hungry. We knew what to do next. Habitual repeated action in the past can be marked by used to, as in, I used to eat a lot, or by the auxiliary verb would, as in, back then I would eat early and would walk to school. The auxiliary would also has other uses, such as expressing conditional mood. However, in many cases, the habitual nature of the action does not need to be explicitly marked on the verb, and the simple past is used. We always ate dinner at 6 o'clock. You see that? The imperfect tense is a way of describing an action at a different time, but without just saying you did it. It's like continuous, right? You could say past tense is I ate a sandwich. But if I'm telling a story where I want to describe a past event as if it's happening, you understand? You get my meaning? I want to describe a past event as if you're in it. So I'm not going to say I ate a sandwich. I would say I was eating a sandwich. I was walking down the street. That's imperfect. Okay? Whereas the perfect, let's see. Go ahead.
A perfect would be Salak. In that case, you walked down the street. Okay, come on.
Perfect tense is, or the perfect tense or aspect is a verb form that indicates that an action or circumstance occurred earlier than the time under consideration, often focusing attention on the resulting state rather than on the occurrence itself. Let's get an English example. Right. In the grammar of some modern languages, particularly of English, the perfect may be analyzed as an aspect that is independent of tense. The form that is traditionally just called the perfect, I have done, is then called the present perfect, while the form traditionally called the pluperfect, I had done, is called the past perfect. It's all a bunch of crap. Okay, that's what I'm really trying to get to here. Don't apply any of this stuff we're reading to Hebrew. None of it. Don't try to talk about the imperfect tense in Hebrew. Don't try to talk about the perfect tense and the perfect verb and the imperfect verb, because Hebrew doesn't have any of that. Of course, Hebrew has verbs because a verb just means an action. Hebrew has that. All that other stuff, no. Hebrew has its own rules, its own way of talking, its own way of expressing itself. That is in no way, shape, or form attached to any of these things. You cannot use them to describe Hebrew. So now let's jump back to this that we're talking about, right? So it says, Salakia, now check this out. If you go to that same document, we're talking about the imperfect tense, right? Salakia, where am I at? Bear with me. If you see this, right, there's a part where you can scroll down within the imperfect tense. It still says that. If you scroll down past where it says frequentive imperfect and go to future time, there's a sentence. Go to Hosea chapter 14 and verse 4. Yes. Hosea 14 and 4. I'm going to read it in Hebrew. Now I have you read it in English, all right? All right. Here we go. Hosea chapter 14, verse 4. It says, Arapa'ah, Mashawabtham, Ahabum, Nadaba, Kaya, Shab, Apaya, Mamanawa. Right? Now, can you read it in English?
It's the book of Hosea, chapter 14, verse 4. I will heal their backsliding.
Mm-hmm.
I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from him.
Right. I will heal their backsliding. I will heal. The word for heal is rapa'ah. Rapa'ah. How do we say I will heal?
Oh,
okay.
So like, sir, rapa'ah.
Right. So we took Ra. It's kind of crude. Salakia. Ra. Pa'a. And we attached the to the beginning to conjugate the verb. Now notice this says, I will heal. Right? They said that, or made it seem as though this is a different form, right? They called it what? I'm trying to see what they call this. The future time of the frequentive imperfect goodness. I will heal. It functions the exact same as when it said, I will teach in the other scripture that we read. If we go further, we'll see the same thing throughout the scriptures. There's no rule that you can read about how English sentences work that can be applied to this. It does what it does. Simply put, it just does what it does. Now, there are rules, but these rules just don't function the same as with English. Okay? There's very, very little overlap between English and Hebrew. You follow me? Very little. Like, that's why we can use words like verb, noun, conjunction. We can use those words sometimes because that's just a language thing. That's just something that most languages have. You have to be able to express actions. You have to be able to express things. You have to be able to, locate things within the sentence and use what they call, not adjectives, adverbs and things like that, pronouns and such. right? Have to be able to do that. But some of the more hard line grammatical rules, forget everything you ever knew about it. They just will not work. Even conjugating a verb. This is a conjugation. That's what this is. But the verb hasn't changed. Again, we're using I'm using the word conjugation, right? That's an English term. I'm using the word conjugation to just get you to understand this is a verb. Rapa'a is a verb, to heal. Right? Rapa'a means to heal. When you put this prefix, it's changing the form of this. This is the root. It just means healing as a verb itself. But just like in English, well, I might say I healed or she healed or he, so on and so forth. In Hebrew, we just kind of just put a prefix to kind of make sure that we say the right thing. You understand what I'm saying? And even this can have different functions based on what, like we said before, on context. It's not always going to work just like this. You understand? It's like, how I say this simply. We have to build this up. We have to keep studying, so that way one day we get an understanding of this. Now, of course, I'm not talking about us in this room, because there's brothers way above us who already know all of this like the back of their hand. Yeah, absolutely. But this is not the same as saying I will heal. See, in English, I got to say I will heal. I healed. Or I can say I am going to heal. He was going. There's a whole bunch of different imperfect, perfect, causative, yada, 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 yadas to say that. In Hebrew, I'll make it easy for y'all. It's a lot less of that. There's a lot less you have to worry about when it comes to conjugating this. So if I want to say, I will heal, I'm simply going to just put my ah here. And based on the context, you'll know whether or not I'm saying I will heal or I heal or I healed. Right? And if I switch this out and put, now what does that mean?
Oh, Slack, if I may, he healed.
Let's prove it. Or he will heal. Right? Go to, or even he heals. Bear with me. We get the scripture. Get Genesis 24:7. Genesis 24:7. And then we'll get Salakia. Then we'll get Proverbs 15:29. Read Genesis. Let me get it in Hebrew.
Come. But I go with 30, 15 and 29.
Count.
Come.
Genesis chapter 24 and verse 7 in the Hebrew. Salakia. Yahweh, Alahaya, Hashamyam, Ashar, Lakwaknaya, Laksakia, La Kwakanya, Mabayath, Abaya, Wama ma'aratiza, mawaladathia, wa ashar, debar, laya, wa ashar, nashabai, laya, la amar, lazaraika, athun, ath, ha'aratiza, haza'ath, hawa'a, yashalak, mala'akwa, lapunyaka, walakwakath, asha, labunya masham. Right? Read it in English.
Come. The book of Genesis, chapter 24, verse 7. The Lord God of heaven, which took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, unto thy seed will I give this land. He will send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence.
He shall send his angel, or he will send, right? And it's the word is, where's it at? Yashalak. Yashalak. The root word is shalak. Where am I at?
Oh, select.
Okay.
So he sent, not he shall send.
No, Yashalak in the context here is he will send or he shall send.
Come.
Right.
So,
He shall send. He will send. Right? Now, go to the other one.
No.
Proverbs. Was it Proverbs or Song? It's Proverbs.
Proverbs. Slack 15 and 29.
Proverbs 15 and 29. Now let's see the difference, and let's see if there's a difference in how the Hebrew works versus the English. I'll read it in the Hebrew first. The book of Proverbs, the 15, verse 29. Rakawak, Yahweh, Rashayim, Watha Palath, Taza Dayakim, Yashemai. I read it in English.
Come. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 29. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he heareth the prayer of the righteous.
But he what?
But he heareth the prayer of the righteous.
Now, he heareth the prayer of the righteous. Does it say he will hear?
Lies.
No, it says he heareth, which if you were to break it down in English, could be described as present tense. Right? He's doing it. He hears it. It's not I will hear, it says I hear it. I hear something. Right? You hear something? It's present. Okay? But it says Salakia. Right. Right. The root word is what?
Here.
Which in Hebrew is what? Shemai. This is the root, right? There's another word for it we did the other day, but I can't remember it. Which means to listen or hear. In this context, to form what? He hears, present tense, is the same thing as if we're saying he will hear. We just put a yah. There's no added word or word taken away. It's the same thing as saying he will hear. He hears, he will hear. Same thing. Okay? We'll get one more. Let's see. Get 1 Samuel 16:7.
Okay.
So lucky now my phone's bugging out.
Yeah, mine too.
What does it say? What's up? All right, it's working now. Yeah, 16:7. I'll read it in the Hebrew, and then you take it in the English. Amen. The book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 7 in the Hebrew. Waya Amar, Yahweh al Shema Wa'ala, al Thabat, al Mara'awa, Wa'al Gabah, Kwamathwa, Kaya, Ma'asafya, Safyawa, Kaya La'a Ashar, Yara'ah, Ha'adam, Kaya, Ha'adam, Yara'ah, La'ayunyum, Wa Yahweh, Wa Ra'ah, La Labab. I'll read in English.
Okay. The book of 1 Samuel, chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said unto Samuel, look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart.
For man looketh on the outward appearance. Present tense, looketh.
Okay.
Man looketh, right, on the outward appearance. They'll also call that continually, right?
Okay.
Man looketh on the outward appearance. And how is that said here? The word for look, Salakia, here is, a second, or seeth, is ra'ah. Ra'ah, right? And the way it says looketh, man looketh, and the Lord looketh, is what? Yara'ah. He looketh. That's continual present tense. That's not he will do anything. That's not past tense. It's two different in English. That would be two completely different tenses. Me saying, I will look, or I look, I have to word it. I have to say it differently. It won't make sense. Like if I say, I'll take a look at it, or I'll look at your car. But if I look at you and say, yeah, I look at your car, you'd be like, huh? Right, like, like is this something you often do? Like, what do you would be confused?
Go.
Whereas in Hebrew, this is what it is. They're not really. You get what I'm getting at here? If I try to understand Hebrew the way I understand English, it won't make sense. I'll be in a lot of trouble. You know what I'm saying? So moving forward, because I had talked to an Ottawan above me, my was above me, but a man above me, and you know what I'm saying, and got to understand them, even though I knew that, but it's like, like when you put it like that, it kind of sat with me, and I'm like, okay, like I never thought of it quite like that, right? But so when I use some of these words, you can write them down. You should know them. You should know what an imperfect is. Always good to know. You might get in a battle with somebody. And now you can tell somebody who thinks they know something about Hebrew, Hebrew does not have an imperfect tense. It does not have a perfect tense. You understand? You can tell them that. But it's also important for us to understand as we move forward, not to put so much stock in some of those concepts, because a lot of them, most of them, don't even really apply to Hebrew. We're just using the best word we can find to describe this thing, right? So we got to keep that in mind. All right. Is there any questions on anything that we talked about today? Again, I know I threw a lot of words at you, but that was kind of the point. Like it's like Half that stuff I'm reading from Wikipedia don't even matter because Hebrew don't got it. Okay. All right. So we didn't get to the colors. You know what I'm saying? But next week we'll get a couple of colors in. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to do more of these, and we're going to learn something too, even with that, right? We use the word prefix. Even that is kind of what we might call a misnomer, because they're all different parts of speech. They're prefixes because they attach to the beginning of a word. That's how Hebrew works. You see? It's like, wait a minute, well, if they're different parts of speech, why are they being used at the beginning in the same way? Like, why not do it a different way? That's because you're used to, in English, things kind of flow in a certain way. Nothing wrong with Hebrew. It's just that using this depends on the context. Using this depends on the context. This language is more contextual than anything. Far more contextual than Hebrew. Than English, excuse me. So that's why you have a This I or I am is not a pronoun. It's a word, but more specifically, it's like a conjugation. It helps to conjugate a verb. Yes. As opposed to, if I want to say I as a pronoun, how do I say it?
Me. Oh, sorry.
In Hebrew. No. This is not a pronoun. How do I refer to myself in Hebrew? What you just said was very heavy, because this is not referring to myself. This is more so about letting the reader or the person being spoken to, letting them know who performed the action. In this case, it happened to be the first person, myself. But if I need to refer to myself, I'm going to say Anya. Anya. Mm-hmm.
So like that's just Anya saying me or
I. Right? This is a pronoun. It replaces a noun. It's so when you tell a story, you don't have to say young man Victor 30 times. You don't have to speak in first person, right? That's what this is for. This is not for that. This is to take words like Rapa'ah and Shemai and tell you who's going to perform the action. You understand? So if I want to say, I will listen, then I would say, Ashemai, I will listen. Right? I shall listen. And that also works in the other way. If I want to say, I'm listening, I believe I can also say, Ashemai. Right? Or I listen in current tense. Like we just did with Yah, right? Yashemai could be he will listen, but it could also mean he listens, depending on the context. All the other words around it. All right? We're going to get further and further into this because it's going to actually make it easier for us because we don't have to think of like English. We don't have to worry about a million different ways of conjugating this and that. It's going to, when we get to the nitty gritty of it, we're going to see just how much this resonates with us and how simplified it is. Okay? Any other questions in the room? Come on. No sweat. And with that, I pass the class over to Priest and Officer Yanazor.
This one is working. Security announcements. We are the ISUPK out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or a sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or a sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18 and 21 in Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. Means 10th in Hebrew and is pronounced ma'ashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priest. Not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give, upcoming holy convocation. And on September the 6th, we're going to have the feast of the blowing of the trumpets. Remind Akim and Aquatium to check on social media such as isupk.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and material. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirt, pants, headband, or scarf, and with that, a majim,